Are you humble?
Why,
It's kind
yes, yes, I am.
yeah, it's kind of a trick question because if you say yes, you have a problem. And if you say no, you have a problem. So
Yeah.
that's what we're going to talk about today. I think it's going to be an interesting conversation. And before we get into that, I would like to welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here at Looking Up. This is a podcast for Christian women. I'm Kathy Pollard in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And with me is Carla Moore. And I don't even know where you are right now. Are you in Turkey?
I'm in Turkey.
She's all the way in Turkey, so she's already tired. It is late for her. Is it at the end of a long day of leading a tour and doing some exciting things, which I'll let her tell you all about. But welcome. It is our intent to just encourage everybody and remind us all to keep looking up no matter what's going on. So, Carla, go ahead and tell us how you're doing and what's going on. Honestly, I feel like it's been forever since you and I have really talked, and we
Yeah,
have
we
a
didn't even
million
talk.
things to catch up on.
No, we're gonna have to save that. We neither one of us have time to do that today.
Yeah.
The first thing I want to tell you is that we went to Colossae, the mound of Colossae this morning, and I thought about Colossians 3, 1 and 2. And I looked up while we were there
Oh,
and thought
neat.
about you and thought about the podcast. And there's not much there, and we had to climb. It was a pretty good little climb up a big hill. I'll send you a picture of it.
Mhm.
But we have 44 people with us, and some of us, including me, are not all that steady on our feet anymore. And so that was kind of a sweaty moment for me, not in the, well, yes, in the sense of exercise, but in the sense of hoping
Nerve.
and praying that nobody fell or slipped because
Mhm.
we really were going up and coming back down is scarier. But yeah, we are about a third of the way through a tour that is going through Turkey and Greece and Rome. We are in Kushadasi right now, which is basically Ephesus,
Mhm.
and it's been really good. We got lots of really good people. I was looking at my list today because you had said something about you saw the picture and there was some repeats, and there are 20 of the 44 have been with us before. So yeah, there are some repeats, which is fun because it's like being with friends again, but at the same time, we've enjoyed the other 20 some odd people that we don't know and enjoy getting to know them. So it's been good.
Well,
But
that's a
yeah,
testimony to how great those trips are, that somebody would be willing to do it again and they kind of know the ropes and know what to expect and, so you don't have to worry so much about them.
yeah, it's been great. But
Mm,
I
cool.
did something way, 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 way out of my comfort zone
I
this
saw
morning.
that. How exciting.
I don't know what happened, but I got peer pressured into doing a hot air balloon in Turkey. And what was funny, and maybe not so funny, one of the men that went with us, Thomas Mingers, he and his wife came with us and went on the trip. He said he saw something in the newspaper not too long ago, a month or two ago, about one of these not having a very successful ending. So he
Oh.
said, yeah, he said, I didn't want to say anything to anybody because things happen, but
Mm,
it it was never really even on my bucket list to do that kind of thing, but it was, I don't know. It just happened. It just happened. And it was something that our tour guide, and we've been with him before, Mali, he's the one I've talked about before, that
mm,
he talks about. I wrote a few words down that I will remind people who I'm talking about. So he talked about vowels in words, that there aren't any vowels in certain words. And he talked about, this is a side note here. He said a snake, someone was beaten by a snake. And we were all looking at each other like, how do you get beaten by a snake? Well, bitten. So he said beaten by a snake. He talked about our cardiovascular system. He talked about several villages. He talked about something that was volcanic and vegetarian pizza and evaporation. And he also talked about the third largest city in the Roman Empire, but I'm not going to tell you how he said that. You can just use your imagination. The third largest city. Anyway, he put this together. See, I didn't say it. I didn't go there, John. Be proud of me.
Boorish.
But that he says that so often because, somebody the third comes up or the third century or the third
Um,
largest city or whatever. And
uh,
we're all back here going,
trying to keep a straight face.
just dying laughing. Yes.
Um,
Anyway, he's the one that put it together. He said he had, apparently it's a big thing here in Turkey to ride hot air balloons. So, we did. We got up at 6 and we went outside, and this white van picked us up with these guys that don't speak English. And I mean, you started thinking, is this a bad movie beginning? Is this something that I'm being way too trusting about? Drove off, picked up some other people that spoke French. We all crowded in this van. It felt like something kind of weird. And then started driving over these bumpy and rocky and hilly areas. And then all of a sudden, there's these three big balloons. They're laying on their side. And every once in a while, you see this big flame shooting into it. And they
mm,
start to stand up and to climb in. I mean, it wasn't really anything like I thought it would be this big basket that you can walk around in and you can see over or whatever. And it was divided into four sections. And so there was six of us in each section. It was pretty tight.
mhm.
Um, John, I
How's
don't
that
think
work
he
with your
liked it.
claustrophobia?
Well, but it was so open, it was open. I was
Mhm,
worried about being cold, but then like right here above my head, this flame is shooting up into the balloon to
mhm,
make it go up. Anyway, it was an experience, and it was beautiful up there. And it turns out I bet there was at least 30 balloons in the air scattered over
mhm,
the valley, Lycus Valley, looking
mhm,
down over Hierapolis, where it's calcified, it's all white. It's like what happens to your bathtub when you have too much lime and calcium.
mhm.
Um, but it was beautiful. So that was this morning. We've been lots of different places that I can't even remember right now. Haven't had supper. I showed you I'm having Turkey's brand of Pringles for its mashed potato,
Mr. Potato.
and the Drink of Champions Coke Zero for supper. So,
You do what you got to
I-
do.
yeah, yeah. So how are
It's
you?
how dedicated we are to the podcast, ladies.
Yeah. And I'm hooked onto my phone, and I just got a notification that I've used 80% of my data. So,
Yikes.
okay, it's all right. Well, I'm sure it looks terrible and it's weird, but let's
Well,
keep going.
you don't look terrible.
Thanks.
You're
I
welcome.
haven't brushed my teeth in about 18 hours, but you can't tell.
I can't smell it.
Nope. You know how you got the little fuzzies going on in your teeth? Yeah, I need to brush my teeth.
Well,
How
we're
was
just
your
glad
week with
that
your sister?
the trip to Florida was amazing. We had great weather and it was so fun just to spend time with her. And we joked all week about the fact that I had to be Neil because usually Neil is the one that takes care of all the details, like the rental car
Hmm.
and where we're staying and all that kind of stuff. And I had to get the rental car and I had to keep up with the keys. And I had, it was just like, so many times throughout the trip, I was like, it's hard being Neil. And we had a few adventures, which I'd love to share, but we really don't have the time for right now. And then today, Hillary got me into, I thanked her for getting me interested in another hobby that I won't have time for.
Yeah,
I'm
she
already
got you to pickleball.
thinking, yeah, longingly of pickleball and watercolor. When am I ever going to get to do it again? And today she asked me to join her and Taryn on a mahjong class. And but it's like the real deal. It's not like the solitaire game on a computer. It's this
Hmm.
beautiful, beautiful set. The tiles themselves are stunning. I mean, like everything about this game is almost ceremonial,
Very elegant.
symbolic. It's like there's etiquette involved in the game and it's like a whole culture, really. And even little things like how you set your tile on your tray, which is gorgeous. You tap it a couple of times, which is supposed to represent like a little bird tapping and I mean just like everything has meaning and it's just absolutely beautiful. There's a lot to learn, but I loved it. I felt like I had just, like a whole new world was open to me or something. It was very fun. So that was kind of
It,
neat.
Chinese origin?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Homestead wise, we had Cody Basham is one of our young members at Cumberland Trace, and he came out and did a bunch of stuff for us on the property, another bush hogging. And we've had,
Yeah.
because of all the bad weather, a bunch of big trees come down that we couldn't move out of the way. And he came and cleared all those out. And I had a really scrubby, um, that the former owners had like this knockout roses bed in the middle of the property that had these great big boulders all around them, which I never have liked. And he came and removed all of that. I mean, he just did a bunch of things, spent a whole day. So it's just so fun to walk around and go, oh, it looks amazing. And in other homestead news, I think we've lost a chicken.
You don't know, you think?
I think we let out seven to free range yesterday, and only six came back. And today I've seen six clustered together somewhere, and then later I saw one lone chicken on the back deck. I don't know if that's the missing one or if just one of the six wandered off a little bit. So we may have lost a chicken. I don't know.
Or it may have run away.
It may have run away. Um, Monday night we went to Carl and Emily's house. They had everybody over for homemade brick oven pizza. He has
Ooh,
one of those
man,
pizza
that's my
ovens that he
favorite.
got for Christmas, and he has figured it out. So he did like made to order pizzas for everybody. She made homemade apple cobbler with apples that she had put up, and
Mm.
that was a lovely evening.
That's the
Um,
kind of pizza that you make it, you stick it in, and it's ready in like a minute and a half, and you're eating it right then.
yes, yeah, yeah, it was so
That's
good.
fabulous.
I also wanted to mention real quick a big thank you to everybody in the Looking Up group. I had posted a few days ago about one of our members who's a newer Christian is really going through a difficult time. She is the sweetest, most lovable lady.
Mm.
And her 4-year-old granddaughter's just been diagnosed with leukemia.
Mm.
And she's missed a lot of work, going back and forth, helping to take care. She spent 10 days, I think, in Vanderbilt this last round when they finally gave the diagnosis. And she's been traveling back and forth to Nashville and just a lot going on. Well, she has two twin sons, and this is their senior year. And
Mm.
so she's missing out on a lot of their stuff going on their senior year because she's helping, with the granddaughter. And anyway, it's just a lot. She's just never asked for anything, so sweet, but so overwhelmed.
Mhm.
And when I mentioned about would anybody like to send somebody a card of encouragement, I mean, just a flood of people.
Mhm.
Messages, comments, I got texts, I mean, still today, I don't know how many days ago that was, but still today, I've been receiving them. And so many people have said, would it be appropriate to send gift cards or a check or, just second mile stuff?
Mm.
And I just think it's amazing how, we're hoping to encourage our sister she's a relatively new Christian, to let her know you're not going through this by yourself. This is what God's family is all about. But
Mm.
I'm so encouraged, too, just at the huge response of people that reached out. I know you experienced the same with your dear late friend Alice when you asked for people to reach out and encourage her. They really
Yeah.
did. And that's just what I love about this group, this community of women. And this isn't the first time that's happened, and I know it won't be the last. And I'm just so grateful. I'm so thankful to everybody who jumped in and wanted to. And a lot of them, the coolest part was, they'd message, I'd send the information. They would say something like, "Thank you for the opportunity to do something like this." Like they were thanking me that they had an opportunity to encourage somebody else. So
Yeah.
very, very cool. And then the last personal thing I'll share is I'm keeping my phone nearby because my mother is currently in the ER. So I don't really know what's going on. She had hand surgery yesterday. They had to put her under for it, but she was fine when she went home. But today something happened and she got dizzy and unresponsive. And her husband Ray took her back to the hospital and they admitted her. And now they're running a bunch of tests and CAT scans and all that. So I'm waiting to hear what
Yeah.
happened there. So if I look a little, if I get, I didn't usually I silence this thing and put do not disturb and all that, but I've got it right here and I don't want to miss something. So
You
I
need to be
apologize.
watching.
in advance if there are interruptions during this recording. So.
No, no apologies. That's what you need to be doing. I don't have a whole lot to share. I know that, I mean, you and I haven't talked in what,
Mhm.
more than 2 weeks, really, but there's lots of things I was going to share that our middle son, Jake, he goes by Jake, but I still call him Jacob. He and his friend Hunter hiked, they flew to Arizona, drove to the Grand Canyon, hiked down from one rim to I don't know how far. Well, they went, there was 19 miles in one day.
Was this
He
for his
sent me,
birthday?
no, it wasn't for his birthday, but he sent me the stats of how many calories he burned, and I have to find the picture. They went 19 miles. Let's see. The workout, this is the workout time, was 8.5 hours. So it took him 8.5 hours to do this. He burned 3,608 calories. It was 19.16 miles.
Oh,
Elevation gain was 4,493 feet. That blows my mind.
yeah.
His average heart rate was 144 beats per minute.
Goodness.
So, yeah, I know. And but he apparently they had a lot of fun, which doesn't sound like a whole lot of fun. I mean, I've always wanted to kind of do the Grand Canyon,
Mhm.
but I don't know that I really want to do it all like that. But I'll embarrass here's he and his friend
What a
Hunter.
great picture. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, you could
And
hot air balloon the Grand Canyon.
and there's that was a good one too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome
So
picture.
that was a big deal to him. And we went right before I guess the weekend before we left for this trip, we went down to Houston for Emmy's birthday. She turned 8 while we were gone, but we wanted to celebrate with her beforehand. So we went and watched another baseball game and had a little birthday party. And so lots of stuff going on, but all good things, just
Mhm.
busy, you like
Yeah.
everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
You ought to see my tennis shoes right now.
Are they filthy?
They're nasty.
Yes.
Lots of turkey dirt on them. And they're white, so that's not a good thing, but
Oh no.
I just brought the
The weather
comfortable one.
like, has the weather been nice?
Mostly the first day or so it was kind of rainy, cool, and I needed long sleeves and sweatshirt kind of weather, but today was I mean, I'm wearing what I had on today, short sleeves, and it was cold early. It's like 50-ish when you get up, and then it gets up to about 74, 75. So it's
Sounds
been
very
nice.
much like what we have. Yeah. We've had the most perfect weather. I mean, it's 70s, sunny, not a cloud in the blue sky. I mean, this is it right here.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
It's the in-between period.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, anything else before we get in? I know you're exhausted and you want to eat your mashed potato chips. You want
Oh,
to
I'd
eat your
rather eat
dinner.
something else. My dinner. There's probably tons of stuff, but we'll
I
save
know
that for
that's how I feel. I've jotted down all these things and I'm like, oh, I'll share that some other time. I'll share that
yeah.
some other time.
Yeah, we probably need to get going, don't we?
Okay, so we're talking about humility because last um, Sunday morning, Barrett Hammer taught our Bible class, and his subject was on humility. And it was a really good class. And he had shared this list at the end of like application things. What can we do? And he was looking at humility in the book of John. So it was really an interesting approach to the topic. And then he shared this, application thing at the very end, and it was about 11 things of, you want to be humble, you want to practice humility, here's what it's going to look like in your life. And he shared this list of 11 things and taking copious notes. And as I'm going through the list, I'm kind of putting little check marks next to the ones like, oh, I probably need to work on that. I probably need to work on that. Okay, I need to work. And when I got through the end, I turned around and said something to Hillary, like Hillary Hammer was right behind me. What does it say if you need to work on like 7 or 8 of these 11 things?
That you need 60% more humility, I guess.
Exactly, exactly. So I thought perhaps, you know how we always say we pick topics that we need.
Yeah.
Here's your
Yeah.
sign. This is my sign right here. But I've brought up this book before, and I've been wanting to do a whole episode on it anyway. This is The
Mhm.
Joy of Self-Forgetfulness is the name of the book. Humility, The Joy of Self-Forgetfulness, and it's by Gavin Ortlund. And I believe I first heard about this book from, I think Hiram Kemp referred to it in a sermon. And it was the subtitle that caught my attention, The Joy of Self-Forgetfulness. And so I ordered it, and it's a really cute little book. It's a short read. It's very easy, very engaging. You can see all the highlights
Mhm.
I've got in here. So I kind of wanted to spend more time on it anyway. So this was like the perfect time and the perfect excuse. And I thought we might start out by thinking about, do you know somebody that's genuinely humble? And when Barrett was teaching his class, he said, in the Bible, we can think of individuals we know that were humble, Bible characters. First of all, the Bible says that they were. Moses was the most humble in all the land. But in recent history, in modern times, he said, can you think of a well-known figure that's known for their humility? And, it was kind of like crickets, and he was
Mhm.
like, exactly. So,
Wow.
but I was thinking about, when you think of this characteristic trait of humility, is there a certain person that comes to mind? And I always feel like when you're talking about, we've done that with talking about marriage and what couple do you think of that you think has a great marriage and why, and what would you like to emulate about them? And so I thought maybe we would kind of approach this topic of humility the same way. What person comes to mind when you think of humility, and what is it about that person that makes you think that, Um, and so the reason I appreciated, first of all, Barrett's class in this book is I think my problem has been when I think about humility, I just think of it as not being proud.
Mhm.
Pride is a
Opposite
huge
of pride.
problem. I've heard it said that pride is at the root of all sin, and I know I have a pride problem when I have a hard time apologizing or feel the need to defend myself or, all these things that get in the way or graciously accepting an apology. These are all pride centered type of things. And I think in my mind, I've always thought humility is just the opposite of pride. So if you have a pride problem, you don't have humility. But this book really focuses on there's so much more to it than that. It's not just the absence of pride. Humility is its own thing and it looks a certain way and it brings blessings and so to me that was just very intriguing and very interesting. And the message really of this book is how freeing it is. All the things that we put on ourselves that, maybe pride is at the root of, but we don't realize that's what we're doing. If you're practicing humility, it removes all that stuff. A lot of our own stress and angst and irritations and things like that. Oh, that's an update on my mom. Why don't you talk for a second while I read this text?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Well, and I don't have a whole lot, but just thinking about the joy of self-forgetfulness, the opposite of that would be self-remembering. So thinking about yourself all the time and always thinking how I feel and how other people make me feel. And so that's probably not a good way to be. And just incidentally, Jeff Jenkins is with us on this trip, and he's sitting. I sit in the front with John so he can communicate with the guide, and Jeff is on the other side of John, and I'm hearing him talk to other people, and to me, he's a very humble person because he is always asking questions about other people. It's not remembering self, but remembering to ask about what other people are interested in, or he's just not about himself, he's about other people. So I guess that is what makes me think about um humility, is not thinking so much of yourself. Is
Well,
that
and you're
anything you
exactly
want to
right
share?
because I'm going to turn this volume off now that I have my answer.
Is she okay?
She is. Oh, my phone doesn't always.
More.
It's not doing it. Never mind. Um, yes, the biggest concern is that she had a stroke.
Mhm.
or a heart attack or something from the surgery yesterday, but she did not. They think that it's just complications from coming off of the anesthesia from yesterday, which explains she had a rapid drop in blood pressure and oxygen levels. They said it explains the lack of engagement, the loss of muscle control, the loss of senses, hearing, sight, touch, and inability to speak, which I didn't
Reaction
know.
to medicine.
Yeah. But her color is good. She's walking unaided. They think she's probably at about 85% or so. So they're actually on their way home now.
Good.
So she's okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So now I can focus.
Yeah. Where were we?
But you're absolutely right. In fact, what you just explained is one of the things in the list that we're going to be talking about. So, what you explained about him and that being a sign of humility is exactly one of the things. So, very, very good. You've passed the test.
Okay. All right, I can relax now.
You can relax now. Don't go to sleep, though. I know you want to. Um, this book quotes Timothy Keller and
Mhm.
how humility is freeing. And Timothy Keller said, "There's nothing more relaxing than humility," which just that statement alone is encouraging to me because I think in my mind, I'm always going, oh, but it's so hard. I'm constantly wrestling against the flesh and pride. And, it's got to be hard to put yourself under somebody else and put everybody else first and put your own needs last. Like, I think Satan gets into our head and makes it think that it's this horrible thing when we know the Bible always holds service up as something good and beautiful and peace bringing and brings you joy and purpose. And so there's nothing more relaxing than humility. And then the author said the truth is, humility actually breeds strength and resilience because it frees us from the restricting needs of the ego.
Mm.
And then here are those restricting needs of the ego: the need to be in charge, the need to look good, the need to defend ourselves. So, all of those things, restrict us. But humility releases us from all of that. Humble people tend to be productive and industrious, often without even thinking about it. So, so it's really, really good. And then this book also shared this quote from C.S. Lewis. He said, "Do not imagine that if you meet a really humble man, he'll be what most people call humble nowadays. He'll not be a sort of greasy, smarmy person who's always telling you that, of course, he is a nobody. Probably all you'll think about him is that he seemed a cheerful, intelligent chap who took a real interest in what you said to him. If you do dislike him, it will be because you feel a little envious of anyone who seems to enjoy life so easily. He'll not be thinking about humility. He'll not be thinking about himself at all." Isn't that
Mhm.
good?
Yeah, that is good. I'm always drawn to humble people. I
Yeah.
mean, you can't help but like them because they're not all about themselves. And I don't know, there's just something about someone who always has to be one better or one more, whatever, or draw attention to themselves or whatever it is. It just repels me. But people who are truly humble are the ones that draw me. I want to be like them. I want to be around them. I want to know, how they got to be the way they are. So yeah, I love that.
Well, a couple of things that we're going to talk about in this list here in a second, I didn't realize were signs of humility, or a lack of humility. It was just like, well, you're supposed to do this because this is how things are. And you're supposed to give things your best and you're supposed to, but in a lot of ways, we're driven by pride instead of humility in those areas. And it really prevents us from stepping out and stretching and experiencing new things in life. So, but we'll talk about that in a second. Um, Another thing this book covers is humility, how to see ourselves without being crushed. You know,
Mm.
a healthy sense of who we really are, acknowledging our own weaknesses and things like that, of course, ties into humility, but then how do you do that without just being absolutely crushed? And so the author says we all have these painful moments of self-discovery, and that's an occasion where you really see yourself in the mirror for the first time, like how you really are. And oh, I come across like that.
Mhm.
Oh, that's what I'm really like. And that can be very difficult and very painful. But he says the gospel enables us to embrace those moments without being crushed. The gospel fuels humility by exposing our sins, but by then covering them. Where sin increased, grace abounded all the more, Romans 5:20. So it's got this whole section in there about it's not about, I'm the lowest of the low, woe is me. It's not that at all. Um, so pride ruins your life and humility blesses it. So what I thought we would do is I have two lists that we'll just quickly go through. One of them is 10 practices to kill pride from this book. So we won't camp out on any of them because I know we need to keep this short. And then the other one, I wanted to share Barrett's application list from his class, and we'll end with his. So do you want to say anything before I jump into this list?
Um, no, I can't think of anything.
Okay, are you with us? Because you look like you're going to sleep on me.
No, I'm not. I promise I'm not asleep.
Feel free to eat some chips while I'm talking.
Okay. Thank you for carrying this one because I'm not
I'm
helping at
happy to
all.
do it. All right, so 10 practices to kill pride from this book. Number one, and this is what you already said, Carla, work at listening. And so the book explains this is taking a real interest in what others are saying, but it's really more to it than that. We know that's good communication skills, and we've talked about that as far as relationships and friendships, be a listener. But the humility part comes in when you are humble, you actually do value. You're not just trying to be a good listener, to communicate and
You
have
really
good friends.
are.
You actually value what other people have to say. You're genuinely interested in hearing from other people. And so it's not oh, I need to remember to pay attention. What'd you say? It's you really care about that. And so you're going to place emphasis on it. You're going to make it an important part of your life. Humility refrains from too quickly arriving at a judgment or a conclusion. And how easy is it to do that? We're kind of summing up and categorizing whatever they're saying in our
Yeah.
mind and saying that's not that big of a deal, really. So, not drawing conclusions. Humility is not controlling and doesn't need to control every conversation. So, work at listening. Number two, practice gratitude. And this is no surprise here. And he talks about the fact that we all tend to go through life glass half empty. And it's not that we're trying to be an Eeyore about it. We're just always aware of what's missing, where the lack is, what we are still wanting to do or wish to do or wish we had or whatever it is. We're always aware of that. And he said, instead, how amazing to develop the attitude that wants to look around and say, how am I so blessed?
Yeah.
And make that a daily part instead of always being aware of the lack. How am I so blessed? Number three, learn from criticism.
Ouch.
Oh, shit. We receive it, and how do we tend to react to criticism? Defenses, excuses, or they're mean, or, whatever it is. But the author said when you receive it, make it your practice to assume there's something in this that you can learn from. There's something in the
Well,
criticism that you can learn.
you were talking about the gospel revealing, our weaknesses, and that if we pay attention to what the gospel says, and if we apply it, and if we are the ones looking at it, then no one has to tell us that painful stuff because we're finding it on our own. And it's
True.
not someone that's saying you have this lack or you have this weakness. We're looking at it on our own and we really want to know what God has to say and how we can, what we need to change about ourselves to make our lives better. So, yeah, the gospel is the answer, always is.
Well, and think how often we hesitate if we do see something in somebody else. I mean, I'm not saying, be the one looking for everybody's fault so you can do them a favor and point it out.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
in a
that's not very
situation
helpful.
where you know what I'm talking about, in a situation where a conversation needs to be had, you don't want to have it because it is never received well. And I'm guilty of that. But Proverbs 12:15 says the way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but a wise man listens to advice. So learn from criticism. Number four, cultivate an enjoyment of life. And this one was a really interesting. It was a short paragraph, but he was talking about taking pleasure in the small things, and all the small things that he mentioned were physical.
Mm.
Just little, just life, just washing your face in the morning, drinking that cup of coffee. He mentioned intimacy. Instead of just getting through the day, getting through the moment, see it, appreciate it, see the goodness of it. And
Or looking for the next big thing,
yeah,
always looking for the next
hmm
and not
yeah,
taking joy in the moment to moment things.
yeah, exactly. Number five, embrace weakness. And by this, he was talking about the areas that you know you're not good at. Like we say, that's just not my thing. That's not my bailiwick. That's not my talent. That's not my skill set. I'd help you, but. And so he says one of the most powerful ways to grow in humility is to embrace situations that make you uncomfortable or exhibit that weakness to others. So, like I don't really want to put myself in this situation because I'm going to stink at it and everybody's going to see me stink at it.
Yeah.
And he said this is a vulnerable situation that we're putting ourselves in, but how much more wonderful to have the attitude of I'm not very good at this, but that's okay. I'm going to do it anyway. You know,
Mm.
I'm willing to help, even though it might make me look like I'm not very good at this. So embrace the weakness. And again, how freeing is that? Instead of feeling like I care too much what other people think, just, you know, do it anyway.
I think others who aren't very good at it either realize, oh, okay, well we're in this together and she's not all that great at it and neither am I, so it's okay.
Yeah. And how many times when you see somebody willing to do something like that, it just makes you like them more?
Yeah.
What are we
Yeah.
worried about?
And the opposite is true too. When I think I see this about myself, if I'm gracious and I mean, just in the last few days, there's things that I have not been very gracious about. Normally, it has to do with John, but we will leave that part alone. But it's just, it's off-putting, not just to him, but to people who see me do that to him. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Number six, laugh at yourself. And he says that if you cultivate this ability, it is healthy and life-giving. So just
Hmm.
this whole idea of not taking yourself too seriously, not worrying that, as he said, that we all have oddities, we all have quirks. Some of us are better at hiding them than others, but we all have them. And he said, just don't take yourself too seriously and don't worry that others are noticing your oddities. Just laugh at yourself. And again, it's endearing when you see that in somebody else. Number
Yeah.
seven, this one is interesting. Visit a cemetery. And he was talking about the reminder that, everybody dies. And he said, when you go out on a cold day and you can see your breath when you breathe, if you go, you can see your breath, but then it disappears. That's how the Bible describes our life. But we don't live that way. And we're taking everything too seriously. But visiting a cemetery keeps things in perspective, and teaches us to number our days that we may get a heart of wisdom. Psalm 90, verse 12. And then number eight was study the universe. And he was talking about how the vastness of it, he mentions one in particular, which I didn't write down, but like those YouTube videos that you can look up that um, they go out, 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 out. You know what I'm saying? Like they might start in a house in the town, in the county, in the state, in the nation, and then the continent, and then the ocean, and then you're leaving the planet, and then you're leaving the galaxy, and then you're leaving. There's one that just keeps going and going and going and going and going. And it just reminds you how vast it all is and how, he said it keeps both your problems and your accomplishments in perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, Number nine, meditate on heavenly worship. And he's not talking about our worship there. He's talking about what's going on in heaven right now. That there are these mighty angels bowing down in adoration to Jesus
Hmm.
Christ.
Hmm.
And that one day every knee shall bow. And, he said, just remembering that, like at this very moment, that's going on, you know, who am I
That's
and
humbling.
the things that are rubbing me the wrong way
Yeah.
in light of what's going on, just kind of helps keep our perspective. And then the
That's a
last
good one.
one, what's that?
That's a good one.
Yeah, I love that one. The last one he said was bathe everything else in humility. So if pride is at the essence of all sin, then humility is the remedy to what is most deeply wrong with us. And he said, just as pride tries to permeate our lives and affect all we do, isn't that true? So should humility. It's more than just one other virtue. Like, oh, great, now I have to add that. Now I have to do that. One more thing I need to work on. It's more than just one more virtue to try to attain. It's to be the atmosphere and the quality in which we experience all life. It's not just another thing to do, it's the way we do everything.
Mhm. Or
So,
maybe not just another personality trait or character trait, but who we are
yeah,
overall.
yeah, yeah, how we do everything. So that would take in how we talk to our spouses, how we react when somebody reaches out to us, and so many things. So, in summary, I kind of picked the best summary statement from his book. Humility is a whole new way of approaching life, an acceptance of our status as sinful, yet loved in the gospel, and consequently, a self forgetful, unpretentious bounce in our step that lives life to the full, embracing it as a wonderful gift from God. Isn't that good?
That is good.
So good. So good. I feel like I just need to like stick this book on my forehead when I go to bed at night, pray all these things. All these things I read in this book help.
Put it under your pillow and sleep on it.
That's right.
Absorb.
Get around in my armpit while it osmosis like
Don't go there.
we said armpit and third in the same episode.
Yeah, but we did say third and
Yeah, I,
not
I
what
said
he
third.
really said.
I said third. John
I
would
know.
be proud.
Yes, we're not being boorish.
That's right. All right. And so then I'll quickly kind of wrap things up with Barrett's application list from his class. Some of these are very similar, but I wanted to share the ones that he shared. And number one, serve others without seeking recognition. We've talked about this before.
Yes, we have.
How come they didn't mention my name in the announcements when I helped with the college meal? They've done that for everybody else every other week.
It makes me think of that episode of Andy Griffith where Barney Fife is waiting for them to say his name. I think he's singing in the choir or something, and he's making that face,
Yes, yes.
So
Oh.
don't do that. Don't be like that.
Well, and what the areas you're willing to serve, it probably would be good to kind of look at them and say, well, all these areas come with some sort of acknowledgement at some point.
Mhm.
But what about all those areas that never do? Never.
Yeah.
Are you willing to serve in those areas? So serve others without seeking recognition. And he said you can do this by remembering who and why you're serving. Number two, listen more and speak less. So that's basically the same point, just caring about others' perspective, excuse me, their life experiences, their viewpoint, stuff like that. Number three, admit when you're wrong and ask for forgiveness. And then he shared the I don't know if this is a quote or what, but he said, pride resists correction and humility seeks growth. It sounds like a lot of the Proverbs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but admit when you're wrong and ask for forgiveness. I
Yeah. Well, can we move along now?
know. So that's what I'm saying. I'm writing these notes and I'm like going, X. you know. Number four, being open to feedback without defensiveness.
Yeah. That reminds me of one of the last podcasts, and you were talking about, um, oh, it was one of the 25. In fact, it may be today's. I've kind of lost track on those, but
Mhm.
not trying to defend ourselves so
Mhm.
quickly.
Yeah, I think that was today's. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Luckily, I haven't been around Neil all day.
You haven't felt the need to defend yourself or anything.
Yeah, I thought, and it's just feedback. It's not even like it's criticism, but did you mean to say this? Don't you think you should have done this or written it this way or blah blah? And I'm like, well, no, because blah blah blah, just that whole need to, well, I thought this or I meant to do this or, you know, give it
If your
up.
eyes go like this and like that, then it's probably something that that you need to work on because you're thinking,
Exactly.
hmm,
Yeah. So far, I'm like going, ugh. And number 5, Barrett said, put others' needs before your own, Philippians 2, verses 3 and 4. But he talked about this, be willing to be inconvenienced. The problem is we don't like to be inconvenienced anymore. And a lot of times that affects what we're willing to help out with.
yeah,
You know, I'd help with a meal, but I've really already got a busy week and, or I'm going to have to drive all the way on the other side of town. Or, we start thinking that's not really convenient for me. So be willing to be inconvenienced, be willing to give up something. So I thought that was really good.
I have a friend. Her name's Phyllis Siebert, and that's what she's the one that comes to mind with that because she'll just stop what she's doing and bring a meal. And she doesn't live very close. She's like 45 minutes away from me. And I know it's not just me that she's done that for. I'll hear about things that she does, not of course not from her, but I'll think to myself, how inconvenient for her to have to go all that way.
Mhm.
But it doesn't seem like she even thinks anything about it. So that's I wouldn't have put those two together thinking about humility, but she is a very humble person. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah, the person that comes to mind for me is Rhonda Garland. Do you remember meeting her here at Carmel and
Yeah.
Trace? Because if there's one of those needs that it's like, are you kidding me? Somebody needs a ride to Nashville for a doctor's appointment, or we've had people reach out to us and say, I need somebody that needs a place to stay throughout the summer because they're doing this internship, or, and most people would be like, huh, what? There have been a lot of situations like that through the years since we've known her that she's the one that steps up and say, I'll do it. I'll do it. And every one of them is personal cost, inconvenience, and she just cheerfully does it. All right. Number 6, pray with dependence, not pride. Number 7, resist the urge to judge or compare. Encourage instead of compete. So that was a really good one. Everything doesn't have to be a competition. He said that creeps into the church as well.
Hmm.
Number 8, accept lowly tasks willingly. If somebody comes up and asks you something and you're like, what? You
I'm
want
above that.
Why are you asking me to do that? Number 9, stay teachable. A humble heart is always learning. Be open to learning from anyone. He talked about all ages.
Hmm.
Not somebody that you think of as ahead of you or, you view them as smarter than you or whatever, but be willing to learn from anybody of all ages. Number 10, forgive quickly and fully. Thought that was a good one. And then finally, live for God's glory, not your own, John 5:19. So very,
What a
very,
practical list.
very good practical list. Yeah.
Sorry, I zoned out, or I didn't zone out, but there was a sound. It sounded like a curtain being pulled back, and I kind of had to look around the room to make sure there wasn't something
A
going on.
boogeyman. Oop,
Yeah, a
oop.
turkey boogeyman.
Yikes.
Well, I feel like
Well,
I contributed zero to that discussion, but it was
no,
very good.
I'm impressed with you. You did better than I thought you would. I knew you were going to be exhausted and we were having a hard time trying to figure out when we could even do this because there's an 8-hour difference for those listening in. There's an 8-hour difference in our time zones right now. And you've been leading a tour all day in a foreign country. So,
And I went on a hot air balloon this
get up
morning,
in a hot
and
air balloon.
it took a lot out of my psyche.
That's right. That's right.
A
So
lot of people are like, that sounds so cool. I'm like,
I
okay, you go do
survived.
it. Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad you were able to squeeze us in, and I hope you're able to get something to eat better than chips and Coke.
Mashed potato. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
probably will. Let me show you one more thing.
Okay.
Can you see
The bed?
that? Well, that window
Oh,
right
yes.
there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what it looks into?
No.
The shower.
Oh, that's interesting.
It is very interesting. And it doesn't close all, I mean, it's mostly closed, but not that you can still kind of see in there. And I'm thinking,
Is
I
that
like
y'all's own
that.
shower or is it like a,
Yes,
well,
it's
that's good.
ours. But there's several people on this tour that are like roommate situations. And I'm thinking, they're
Oh,
not going to
no.
like that.
They're gonna attack up a sheet or something.
Well, I'm thinking about tacking up a sheet,
Spray some shaving cream on the window on the
Hey,
outside.
that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's just weird. It's like,
Yeah.
why would you put
Interesting.
it has a mini blinds in there, but
Huh.
they don't close any tighter than they are right now.
I have
So
some blinds like that. They've
in
lost
a
their
shower,
safety function. No, you are
I
tired.
mean, there's just all kinds of, I'm just sitting here thinking, how can I make that mini blind close a little bit tighter? Because I mean, privacy in the shower.
Yeah. But at least you're married.
Yes, there is that.
Yeah. So, well, have a good night's sleep, friend.
Thanks.
Praying for the rest of your trip. And you said you're about a third of the way through, so I guess you won't be heading back until a week and a half.
Yeah, we go back, we'll head back on the 28th. So we get the day off tomorrow. So
Mm.
I don't know what we're gonna do, but we're not gonna have to get up to an alarm clock, so that's good.
But our
But
next recording, you'll still be out of the
yeah,
country.
but we should be, I think where we'll be by then is good internet. So
Okay.
hopefully better than this with the shaking
Yeah.
light behind me
It just looks like there's a ceiling fan making the light go blue, 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 blue.
and terrible glare on my glasses. So
But your
all right,
smile, beautiful.
thanks. I'm glad that your
Now,
mom's okay.
thank you. Thank you. And I enjoyed our chat. I love and miss you. Until next time.
Keep looking up.
Thanks. Love you, friend.
Love you too. Talk to you
Bye.
soon.